Herbert's 100 harem. His return had gone by unnoticed at first. He is, after all, a rather sneaky piece of work. Once the tracers were on the targets, it was for B Team to finish tracking them both, and then for C Team to set up the observation posts. He changed out of everything but his low-profile armor and had gone stalking. There wasn't a single girl of his that wasn't a hunter-predator. And while the op was successful, he was still wired for energy and had written up his report on the ride back. Time for a bit of hunting. So here he was with the skills of an infiltrator, the body of a 14-year-old gymnast and martial artist, the mind of a very bored soldier, and the hormones of a stupid teenager. He was on the hunt for trouble. He creaks open the door and, well, hello, that's a lovely surprise to see. One of the Yaya remarks the moment he opens the door. I thought I heard you come back. What's the matter? Too embarrassed by being private stream? You know something, Ermiza, and you're already teasing me about it. You saw me as stream. Aw, it's no fun if you figure it out so fast. Yeah, there's a news report that showed Private William Stream assisting General Methuselah Archimedes Kronos. You look so tiny in that. She pauses and looks him up and down in the tight, dark blue stealth suit. Not this one, but as Private Stream, you look adorable. And now? Herbert asks, and she licks her lips and eyes him up hungrily. Noted. So, she begins when a strange beeping chime erupts from Herbert's room. Oh shit, that's a reroute off the Dauntless. I have to take this, he says, turning around and walking in. He quickly grabs a pair of jeans off the back of a chair and with a jump slides them on. He doesn't slow for a moment. What's going on? She asks, and he holds a finger up. It's a distant part of the Undaunted calling me through the Dauntless, he says, before setting the communicator to sync with his vanity mirror. This is Captain Gregory Schmidt of the EFL Chainbreaker. Come in, Corporal Jameson. Operative Jameson here. You must have missed my promotion, sir. Herbert remarks and Pukey nods. Excellent, The bounty hunter looks directly at the girl in Herbert's room before looking back to Herbert. I need information on the Zedin, hands-on sort of information. I can get a few of them in here to answer questions, sir. Depending on their nature, will any part of this be sensitive information? Negative. If it were, I'd have requested you to go to the Dauntless to continue the conversation. In all likelihood, there are multiple spies on the channel anyways. In that case, hello ladies. Sorry, I'm taken. Herbert remarks with a grin and Pukey snorts in amusement. What do you need to know, sir? We need some tricks on dealing with them. There's a very skilled, potentially hostile, but so far neutral mercenary Zedin in the area my men and I are. Anything you can tell us would be extremely useful, Pukey says, and Herbert nods as he moves to stand at ease. Sir, the Zedin are one of the more physically capable species in the galaxy. They're right up there with the Lidus, Canador, Apuk, Snikt, and Yauya, like Ermiza here are. There's a strange psychological effect that the general populace of these and many other races like them have. They're extremely deliberate and very quick to accept responsibility, so you can expect a more conservative mindset to the woman. This one is playful, prone to using traps and toying with her targets. Pukey remarks and Herbert considers. I have several wives that are training to be Hunt's mistresses. They should know a lot more about this bag of tricks. Can you bring them over? We're dealing with one that seems to range from a playful child playing pranks to a psychotic murder machine to an expert trapper and capture specialist. That's a Hunt's mistress. The pranks are training traps, practice to set up the non-lethal and lethal when desired. In war, they use disgusting displays of the enemy corpses to shut their opponents down with psychological tactics and basically embody everything that made the Vietnam War a living nightmare for the average American soldier. Well, Pukey cuts himself off and glances to Ermiza. Did I read the report right? Under the age of 18? Oldest is 17, 16 and a half present. Herbert remarks, and Pukey stares at him. If you didn't sound like your balls were only halfway through dropping, I'd be calling the cops. The bitch that set this all up is behind bars and not likely to see the outside of them for at least a couple decades, Herbert states, brushing off his shirt. Wait, is that one of the reasons why you're keeping us out of your bed? We're too young? I'm 90% sure this has come up at least a dozen times, Herbert says with a baffled look thrown her way. 10. But we thought it was just some excuse. 18 is the age of majority in a fair number of nations back home. Trying to couple with someone younger than 18 while you yourself are older is legally considered an act of rape, even if the difference is a single day in some scenarios. Pukey explains. That's absurd. We take the protection of the young very seriously. There's no faster way in a human prison to end up falling on something sharp than to be in there for hurting a child in some way. Herbert says. We're off topic. Is what these hunts mistresses do common knowledge? Pukey asks. Yes, it started off as a Yaoya tradition actually. So if you were trying to research trap users from the Zayden, it would have led you the wrong way. Ermiza explained. My mother's a hunt mistress. Believe me when I say you don't want to be on the bad side of one, or the good side of one, or in the general vicinity of one if you don't have the patience to end up with all sorts of weird things happening. Are you all right? Herbert asks her as she shudders. My earliest memories are of my mother laughing at me as I staggered weeping from the bathroom. It was horrible. No place was safe, and the painful recollection is halted as Herbert gently pulls her close for a hug. It's a little awkward due to her being fairly taller than he is, but she finds comfort into grabbing onto him and squeezing the shorter man into her breasts. As the adult in the room, may I remind you that it would still be considered statutory rape if this chain of events were to continue along this route. Pukey states formally, and Ermiza damn near teleports to be sitting on the edge of Herbert's bed with her hands in her lap and a pleasant smile on her face. Sir, do I tell you how to be with your partners? Herbert asks after running a hand through his hair to get it out of his eyes. I'm not giving you the opportunity, operative. Now, I need your knowledge of Zayden anatomy and physical capacity. Very well. Should you find yourself in an altercation with a Zayden, understand that while the axiom-infused tailblade is extremely dangerous and has roughly 3 times striking length than you'd assume at first glance, those are not the only weapons available. Herbert begins in clinical tone as Pukey visibly brings out a pad of paper and a pen and starts writing. The hands and feet are not only heavily reinforced parts of the anatomy, but have functional hooking and climbing claws in them. These claws can part flesh easily and can leave holes in steel. Furthermore, unless the portion of the anatomy you perceive has a definite softness to it, you can assume that it's hardened to such a degree that standard kinetic impacts as well as laser and plasma attacks will be insufficient. Go for the obvious soft bits for killing blows and the joints for disabling ones. Sensory abilities? Pukey prompts. Unusual but not far advanced, Herbert says. Sense of hearing is roughly on par. Sense of touch is severely reduced due to the armored shell. Sense of smell on par, but they're very sensitive to pheromones as most races are. Sense of taste is very advanced due to their heightened toxin vulnerability, so they'll clearly taste things you can barely detect. Finally, we come to the sense of sight. Despite being physically eyeless, they have astounding visual acumen. Standard, infrared, ultraviolet, and axiom vision all at once. These girls can see a lie clean across your face. You have my pity. It was a learning experience. It turns out that a little comedy routine I was running was understood to be just that far sooner than I expected. Herbert admits, and Ermiza giggles. He was running scared from the Paris. I thought it was convincing, but it turns out he was faking it for a gag. Paris? Get hippies to paint face-huggers and undo the wang. They're harmless little crab things that make a purring noise when happy. Near helpless scavengers. Herbert explains, and Pukey stares. Hold on. He takes a step towards his bed and lifts the blankets to look under. Sure enough, a pair of tiny eyes peer out. A few clicking sounds from him, and it scuttles forward to be picked up. "You have got to be kidding me," Pukey remarks as Herbert stands up with a sky blue and tan facehugger wrapped around his arm and resting its main body contently on his shoulder like the weirdest fashion accessory to ever exist. Completely harmless, very common around the Zeden. Some small colonies use these suckers as part of their emblem or logo. They're nigh universal where the Zeden are found. And it's harmless? The worst it'll do is tug at my hair and give up when nothing tears off. They're scavengers, very shy and friendly. Apparently, they were used to clean up bits of slaughtered kills in the olden days before they'd stink too much. Then they were bred for companionship, and it just kept going. Purpose-wise, it's a cross between a pig and a cat then. Garbage disposal and companionship. Pukey muses before frowning. We're off topic again. Do you know any methods to conceal yourself from a Zeden's gaze? Yes and no. There's almost no way to hide if the Zeden is looking right at you. However, Pukey prompts eagerly, they have horrible peripheral vision in 3 directions. If you're just a little behind one and to the side, then they need to turn their head all the way to see you. If you're under them somehow, then you're invisible. But if you're above them, they can see you clearly. Apparently they did a lot of hunting by hanging off ceilings in the past, so their sight is specialized for it. Meaning we should check the ceiling often and thoroughly if we expect ones around, Pukey remarks. Oh yay, it's their favorite attack vector, Herbert admits before pointing up. For instance, my hunt's mistresses in training are actually here. But we're invisible. How does he do that? Does this mean we're not going to pounce? Screw that. After all the girls make their feelings known, there's a small avalanche of shining black chitin, soft curves, elongated skulls, tail blades, and trendy clothes onto Herbert. Yet somehow, he ends up on top of the pile, perfectly balanced on the rear end of one of the girls and smirking fiercely. Pukey's simply applauding as Ermiza starts openly guffawing. Glad you could all drop in, ladies, Herbert remarks, and Pukey frowns. Oh, boo, boo, I say, bad form, rotten pun, -10 points. He says around a chuckle he can't stop from escaping. Anyways, ladies, if you have a few moments, I'd like to talk to you about someone named Isma the Huntress. Wait, does she live on a station called Octaron Spin? One of the girls asks as Herbert quickly helps the girl stand upright again. Yes, actually. She's one of the most skilled mercenaries on the station, and we're concerned that… you know her, Pukey remarks. This is absurd, the odds are so very slim. Herbert remarks, not really. Isma, the Huntress, is a very old, very successful Zeden. She's my grandmother, though, to be fair. That's because my mother is one of her younger daughters and Mom waited a really long time before having me. She's got hundreds of daughters, thousands of granddaughters, millions of great-great-great-granddaughters. She's old and she's wise. Shit. Anything you're willing to tell me about her? I understand if you won't want to. She's family after all, but she might be hired to kill me or my boys. I can't let that happen. You don't have to worry about that. She's old-school conservative. You don't even touch a man unless you've married him. She might capture you or one of your boys if she was paid really, really well, but killing a man? No. Despite how playful most hunt mistresses are, she's too much of a gentlewoman. How often has your grandmother had non-Zeden descendants? Pukey asks after a few moments. A lot, actually. It's a quirk of the family. When Herbert and I… She blushes. Pukey can't see it through the screen, but the body language gives it away. Standing there with her, Herbert can see the play of axiom that signifies embarrassment just fine. When we have children, my daughters will be human and my son, maybe sons, they'll be Zeden. It's a very strange quirk of the family. The bio deck. It's not her hunting ground. It's her nursery. She doesn't have fans. She's teaching her daughters. Oh yay. Grandma loves having children, loves teaching them and showing them things. With the family quirk, there are all sorts of races. She buys randomized samples to make sure it's a surprise. Didn't you say she also has a lot of students? The crazy teacher grandma that taught you and 100 others everything? Herbert asks. You learned under her. Pukey realizes. Yeah, it's not official though, so I still have to get a proper certification. I see. Thank you for telling me this. We operate under the idea of prepare for the worst but hope for the best. Grandma teaches that too. Smart lady? Anyways, an old-school gentlewoman with her family, as close to a best-case scenario as can be. Unless Grandma Yzma thinks you're a threat to her family. Man or women, if she thinks you might hurt one of hers, she'll break you. She's got centuries of practice. Good to know. There's decent odds we'll be running into her sometime soon. Anything you want us to tell her for you? I talk to her every couple of weeks. I can tell her myself. Very well then, miss. Thank you very much for your time and cooperation. Will you be needing anything else, Captain? Herbert asks, and Pukey shakes his head. Not at all, Operative Jameson. We have everything we needed and more. Thank you.